Assalamu alaikum and good greetings. So today I'll be watching a video titled Muslim Weeps Over Jesus Crucifixion and Converts to Christianity. Mustafa Mohsin on Leaving Islam. Right, so I believe his name is Mustafa Mohsin, and he was a Muslim before and have become a Christian, and this will relate to Jesus Crucifixion, right, based on the title. Without further ado, let's watch.
I primarily remember the cross, seeing Christ on the cross, and just curious about that because I've never seen symbolism in Islam. Islam is not a faith of depiction of character or anything like that, let alone a picture of God. So when I saw the statue of Christ on a cross, I was genuinely curious why anyone in their right mind would pray to a God that's getting killed, basically.
Explain that a little more for us.
Yeah, because normally when I read the Quran, I read about a God who is unbelievably powerful. He's gracious and merciful, but at the same time he's unbelievably just. He talks about how he's the master and we're the slaves. So I don't see a God dying. I don't see someone as strong as that dying. You know, you look at the superheroes in comic books; they're always like buffed up with muscles and everything. I do not think a God, you know, in Christianity would be depicted by a symbol of death. So that's why I was very, very fascinated by why anyone would pray to someone who's weak.
Your search then, as you grew older and finding Jesus, actually started in a Tim Hortons donut shop.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was at the university pursuing a degree, and no one at this point evangelized really that much. So when I saw this person standing right outside of Tim Hortons, he literally just asked me two questions. And I'm guessing it's an evangelist because it was very Jesus-driven. And he asked me what the Quran talked about salvation and if I knew personally who Jesus Christ was.
And when he asked you those questions, your response was?
I told him that I knew Jesus better than he did because I'm a Muslim, and the Quran has an accurate depiction of who Christ is because it was the final revelation given by God.
Now, did he try to challenge that at all?
No, he just asked me to look it up for myself.
You questioned the Muslim faith when you saw a friend's dead body.
At first, my pursuit for God, or in this case in the Bible, I was more so of a curiosity. I didn't see my eternity on the line. When one of my best friends passed away and I saw his dead body in the casket, for the first time ever, the reality of death hit me. And I realized that, you know, I was really living in a self-righteousness sort of idea where my works is going to get me to heaven. But then I started asking myself, what would make me go to the same heaven as an imam who does his 5 daily prayers, who's way more devout than I would be? And I called myself devout. So I was really, really challenged with the idea that maybe the Bible's onto something. Maybe
Interesting logic.
I myself can't save myself. So now the challenge of knowledge turned into the challenge of where am I going to go?
Instead of
So he feels that he cannot challenge. I'm not sure. He said like Imam that phrase 5 times a day or something. So is he someone who do not do that? And how to compensate? Because I can understand the what do you call that? Is it the value or the temptation of something paying for your sin, right? Meaning, if we are facing the law, we would wish someone can pay for us, or an insider that can, you know, reduce our justly punishment, so called. And you know, that's the temptation to have someone like that, right? So it happened again and again to human race, I think. That's where shirk come in, right? You have something that you think that is, because the initial story about how suddenly idol worshipping comes into practice, right? Some of the story begin with those people that we consider, not we, meaning they consider as people close to God, and let them become the intermediary, right? And they can be our defender on behalf of us, certain way like that, right? So if he found that in Jesus, it is understandable from that perspective, I guess, because that's our desire to have that. if we can, right?
Maybe getting better, things kind of got more worse and challenging because you came to a point where you wanted to take your own life.
I basically hit a point where I did not know between the two books. I had the Quran open on chapter 112, and it talks about God being one, he was not begotten, doesn't have a son. And then I had the Bible open on John 3:16. So basically everything the reverse of the Quran. Had them both side by side, Rob, and I was like, okay, God, it's been 3 days, I couldn't even sleep properly. I was having a conversation with God just like how the Christians did, and I said, if you are truly who you say you are, come down and show me, or I'm going to come up and ask you. Because in Psalm 139 verse 8, David says, where do I go from you that I may hide from your spirit? If I go to heaven, you're there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you're there. So I thought to myself, even if I ended up in hell, even if I did that, at least I can have a conversation or some sort of an interaction with the Lord, asking him, because at that point, it didn't even matter where I was headed. I just wanted to know who he was, and it was driving me nuts.
So
That's always the same traits, I think, from my observation, that normally that comes from Christianity, right? I think give us sign, and I think many revert as well that state that even when they already become convinced of the Quran, it's meaning becomes something that become normalized to them. I don't know, to ask for sign, and when they mean sign is something like, I don't know, something when in the Quran, of course, Allah have said all the signs is around us, and prove argument after argument after argument using all the signs that Allah have given, right? Birds, mountain, etc. So that is interesting when between the two concept, one is logical, one is it's hard to make logical, but he, for some whatever reason, do not know how to choose and expect God to serve me and show me a sign, right? If that is the starting point, then we can guess where it's heading, right? Because from the perspective of Muslim, right, we have the unseen creatures, jinn, shaitan, etc., right, that given the clear proof already in front of you, that can become a test for you whether you will follow something, irrational as it may be, just because you demand something.
your hunger for God was at a point where God either you show up or I'm going to take my life and I'll meet you.
Exactly.
Now, how close did you get to taking your life?
So I ended up swallowing 22 sleeping pills, and I woke up in the psych ward. And that was a very different experience on its own, because the Lord intervened many times in my life, through the poverty and through the sicknesses that I've had. And this time he also intervened. And I didn't understand why, because he wouldn't answer me, but he's going to keep me on earth for more curiosity. So I didn't understand what was going on with the Lord. But thankfully he intervened, because looking back now, I was definitely not headed where I thought I was headed.
There was a day, August the 8th, 2015, that everything changed for Mustafa.
Absolutely. So 2015, I was basically getting more and more Christian in my Muslim faith. So what that meant was my 5 daily prayers, I began understanding they were robotic. They were no longer coming from my heart, because there was only one person I was going to look at, and that person happens to be God that took a form of man. And then on August 8th,
what that is interesting, right? Because the craving that he have is got to suit what he wants, right? God must be coming in the form of a man, etc., right? So, well, if you already demand that, of course.
I had the Bible open on John 3:16, and I told myself, because my mind, historically I can prove Jesus, archaeologically I can prove Jesus, but my heart wasn't quite there. It was almost there. So I gave myself this challenge. I don't cry very much, Rob. So I said, I'm going to read John 3:16 as many times as it took until I started crying, because that's when I knew now my mind and my heart are in tune, so I can start believing in the Lord. And it took me 2 hours reading the Bible, just John 3:16. That's all I read, and I started bawling my eyes out. And that's when I accepted Jesus into my heart.
You've got people's attention. They're watching. Can you tell them today, looking back and answering the question, why Jesus for Mr.
By the way, because that verse, right? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Because that just triggered, because someone, I think a Christian said that the Son of God does not need to be begotten, because that's an issue there, right? I'm not sure whether there are different version of this John 3:16 from different Bible. I'm not sure. Maybe some of you know better, right? But yeah, because those, it is quite interesting, because I think the appeal of this verse is that we are saved. We are saved. Right? God sacrificed his only begotten son to save us, right? So the appeal, I can understand the appeal, because some Muslim also go to not to the level of shirk like this, but for example, the the longing of that kind of feeling make certain Muslim romanticize certain stories about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, including the stories of his last word in his deathbed, right? Until his death, he still think about us, right? Those romanticized story becomes quite famous, and because we crave that kind of story, because it feels good to us, we want everything to serve us, even the prophet, right? In this case, even God. That's human desire, I guess. We do not see it as it is. The creator. Why should we demand the creator be in the form that we wish him to be? Who are we, right? So that's of course my perspective.
All I read, and I started bawling my eyes out. And that's when I accepted Jesus into my heart.
You've got people's attention. They're watching. Can you tell them today, looking back and answering the question, why Jesus for Mustafa?
Absolutely. Because he's the only way. If Jesus is truth, then all the other ideas are a lie. And you don't want to buy into any other idea. And you can't make it yourself. That's why God shows you his love by sending you his son to die for you on the cross, so that you don't have to worry about being right enough. You're clothed in his righteousness, and you're made holy in you. And that's the God you want to follow, because he loves you.
Yeah, that's the God you want to follow, because the implied he loves you, he go to that extent for you. That's what you want, right? So yeah, I can understand, I guess, we want something to suit our desire, and that is tempting to accept, right? Because we crave, if we can get something without working, for sure we want that, right? Anyway, so that is interesting. I think the whips, because the title says Muslim whips, it's not in the video, but I think in the story there, he didn't mention oh yeah, crucifixion is the beginning about he did pose a question in the beginning, right? Why would anyone worship something that is weak? Now, if you follow through many things that is being mentioned, that actually pose a question, be it philosophically, logically, right? How can you worship something that is in nature of a man, that's weak, that's limited? The only answer for this is because it suits what I desire. I want God that love me, that do something for me, rather than I have to serve God, right? That's even better, right? God do something for me, because Lord God love me so much. God do, send his only begotten son. That's also pose a question, right? But anyway, to serve me, to save me, right? Why should I follow God regardless of it is logical, that asks me to worship Him, that asks me to strive my best, etc. Right? Why should I accept that when, even though this all question unanswered, right? Why do you worship God that is weak? Because of His love, right? So yeah, I'm not. This is not being sarcastic or anything, but I'm just trying to understand people, right? So in most of the video, I sometimes I mention this. I really want to understand why people behave in a certain way, feel in a certain way, think in a certain way, believe in a certain way, make choices in a certain way, right? So thus far, that's what I can decipher from what I'm seeing, right? Yep, that is it for today. Hopefully we all will be guided to the truth, inshallah, because that is matter. That is what is matter, right? Regardless of whatever stories that you listen to that is giving you what you crave, for example, but the truth is the truth, falsehood is falsehood, right? So hopefully all of us will be guided to the truth, inshallah. And that's it for today. See you next time.